Alright, so let's look at another example. Remember, as I'm going through this, you need to pause and do the part before you go on to the next slide or the next part of the video to be able to check if you're understanding. So this example says, Ben's book about a hedgehog has 374 pages. He reads a few pages in class, and now he only has 123 pages left. How many pages did he read in class? So this story is telling us that Ben has a book, and his book has got 374 pages. So if we close the book and put it in front of him, that's how many pages there were to start off with. But then he reads some pages. We don't know how many, it just says a few. So we obviously need to calculate how many pages he's read. But we know that when he stopped reading, there was still 123 pages in the book that he didn't read. So we need to know how much did he read. So again, the first thing we need to do is we need to find a question. We need to figure out what are we trying to work out. So we want to know how many pages did he read in class. That's our main question. Now we need to do our open number sentence. Remember, our open number sentence always has an X in it that tells us that is what we are trying to figure out. So your open number sentence can look like either one of these in the example here. So you could have said 374 minus X equals 123, because he had 374 pages minus what he read, something, we don't know how much, that's why we put an X, and it gives us a total of 123 pages that are left over. In other words, what is still there that needs to be read. Or an easier way to do it is to work out the difference between what he had and what he has left now will tell us in between what he has already read. So that would be the difference. And when we're working out the difference between those two, we would then need to use a minus. So we say 374 minus 123 equals X. In other words, how many pages he has read. The next step we need to do is the calculation or the actual sum. So we need to find an answer. So if we take 374 minus 123, again, you can do it horizontally where you minus the hundreds, then the tens, then the threes, or the units. But because we can do it vertically and we know how, it's just a lot easier for us to do it in a vertical sum. So we write 374 minus 123, then we say 4 minus 3 is 1, 7 minus 2 is 5, 3 minus 1 is 2. So that would be our final answer. It doesn't matter if you use the first open number sentence or the second one. Both of them will create a minus sum like this, because you can't minus an X when you don't know what it is. So you would have to minus that number to work out the number in between. So either way, it will still be a minus sum. The last part of our sum is to write our sentence or our answer in a sentence for our actual question. So if we look at what our question was, in other words, it said, how many pages did he read in class? So we need to say he, or you can say Ben, read 250 pages in class, because we need to make sure that this answer matches what they have asked us. So if you say he, it's not wrong, but it's just better to explain who, and that would be Ben read 251 pages in class. Alright, so the next example you will be doing on your own. So what I want you to do is I want you to go through this word sum. I'm going to read it for you, but do your steps of O, S, and A by yourself. Pause the video, try your best to work it out, get it all worked out on your paper or your whiteboard, whatever you're using, and try your best to see if you can get to the correct answer that's going to pop up when you push play again for the next slides. Alright, so our story sum says, Julia saw a troop of monkeys when she arrived in the game reserve. 128 disappeared into the trees. There are only 245 left that she can see. How many monkeys were there altogether when she arrived? So, Julia arrived and she saw the monkeys. A troop of monkeys is a group of monkeys. Okay? We don't know how many she saw when she arrived. She just saw a whole lot. Then she's seen that 128 of them disappeared. In other words, they went away. They moved into the trees. They were gone. And now she can only see 245 in front of her. So how would we work out what she saw all together when she first arrived? All right, so you should have done at least O, S, and A by now. Try to figure it out. So what we're going to do is just quickly go through the example so that you can see what the answer should have been. So for O, there were two options. You could have said X minus 128 equals 245. Again, because X represents what we don't know. In other words, we don't know how many monkeys she saw when she arrived, because that is the question. How many monkeys were there altogether when she arrived? We don't know. So we can start by saying X is the troop of monkeys when she arrived. Then 128 disappeared. In other words, we minus 128 because we know that they are gone. They've left. And then there are 245 left that she can see. Those are what's still there. So that's why we say something minus the 128 equals what is left. Or to say how many monkeys were there altogether. Altogether is quite a clue word, which maybe tells us we should probably plus them. So we could say 128 monkeys are gone, but they were there. They just left. And now we've got 245 in front of us. So actually we saw those 245 that are still there. We saw them and we can still see them. But we also saw the 128 monkeys that left. Even though they're gone now, we did see them in the beginning when we arrived or when Julia arrived. So technically we saw 128 and what's still there, 245. So if we put them together, we will get the total of what we saw when we arrived. When Julia got there, that's what she saw in the beginning. Now we're going to look at our sum. So again, you can do your sum horizontally if you want to, but because we know how to do vertical sums, it's just a lot easier to work it out this way. So we will do the example like that. Remember, if you said X minus 128, it still becomes a plus sum because you still have to do what we call the rainbow sum and take the number over. So if you go over the equal sign, it changes magically and becomes a plus. So it's a rainbow sum. It will become a plus anyway. So either one of these open number sentences will still give you a plus sum. So we say 5 plus 8 gives us 13, and we carry over the little 1. Then we've got 4 plus 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7, and 2 plus 1 is 3. So our answer is 373. And finally, we get to our answer sentence. So we need to answer the question, which is, how many monkeys were there altogether when she arrived? So you can say, there were 373 monkeys altogether, or you can say there were 373 monkeys altogether when Julia arrived, as long as you are answering the question. Next week, we will be doing 3 more word sums, and these sums you'll be able to try all on your own. So watch this video a few times, practice the sums, make sure you understand and that you can get to the answers by yourself by doing O, S, and A on paper or your whiteboard by yourself. You can also make up some of your own numbers and your own story sums, or go back and practice some more in your homework diary, your homework book, or maths homework book. There are lots of examples to practice. Remember, the more you practice, the better you will be.